Welcome to the fine print, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Caleb Teskey, and today I am joined by Mr. Tall Truck, Devon Deyhle. Thank you for being back here with me, Devon.
Good to be back with you again, my friend.
Good, and thank you for once again going to sit at the library so we could talk.
Yeah, I know it's a pretty sad state of affairs, the internet in my area.
Mm. Well, hopefully we got some people working on that. I know my buddy's working with Northeast Kingdom Broadband, trying to bring services out there to the kingdom. So it's been a slow progress or a slow process,
I,
but
I've signed up. I'm on the waiting list for Starlink, but also the town of Peacham informed me recently that they were hoping to get higher speed internet to my house within the next 12 to 16 months.
okay, cool. Maybe our next interview will be from the comfort of your living room.
That would be a neat touch.
Hmm. Now, Devon, it's been a while since our first interview, and I feel like a few things have changed since then. I believe before the last time we talked, you hadn't even been licensed yet. So I'd like to sort of um, find out what you've been up to in the time since our last interview and how business is going.
Well, I'll say that since the time we last spoke, I have received my license through the Cannabis Control Board. I'm very thrilled about that. It's a wonderful feeling, of course, to be a legal cannabis cultivator, and so that's been great. And I've been up to the same old thing, still working my tail off, trying to build a brand and trying to provide cannabis to the smoking community.
Hmm. And now I know that we talked a lot about certain types of challenges. One, I think that you really got inside my brain about was the packaging, and I'm sort of curious to hear how you've dealt with the packaging of your various different types of products.
Well, that's still, I just had to go with what was available, which is the glass jars and biodegradable lids, which I sourced from a company that approached me during the NECAN event that was in Essex this past early summer, I think it was. Humidity Corps. Humidity
Oh,
Corps, I
Humidico,
think is
yeah,
the
yeah.
Humidico. Yes, thank you. Yeah, Humidico. They are the ones who are providing me with my jars and my lids that both meet the state requirements for the packaging.
Hmm. So
It's
you,
for me, it's been a little bit difficult because just as I mentioned before, just the bulkiness of all that is is a little bit more expensive for shipping, a little bit less space available in my home as a result of having to pile up all these boxes worth of jars. And it's a lot more intensive to bring it to a dispensary just because of the bulkiness of the packaging.
and I remember for sure that was one thing that you said that really I had never thought of was like the amount of space it takes up in your house to store these things, or
Yeah,
wherever your business is, for people who aren't in their house.
right. They must have to have a dedicated space for their packaging. There has to be a decent sized space just because these boxes of jars take up so much space and they're friggin' heavy to move around too.
How many do you order at a time, Devon?
Well, I would like to be able to order more, but I'm in a pretty cash strapped position where I'm only able to order around 3,000 to 4,000 at a time,
Hmm. And
which
I've heard this.
also isn't the best for my shipping charges either, because I'd rather be able to ship a full pallet instead of a half a pallet, but I'm only able to do what I'm able to do at this point.
Sure, and I've heard that sometimes if you order, more in bulk, well, obviously, like you'll get a slightly better deal if you buying 10,000 or more. Was what a couple of my friends told me.
Yeah, that's totally the cutoff point right there at around 10,000 jars is the point where one can receive a decent change and break in price.
Okay. So let me ask you this, Devon. When you first received your license, I'm sure you did a little celebration and maybe a high five with a couple people. What was your first move after you got your license approved, and how did you like? Where were some of the first stores maybe where you dropped off product?
Well, yes, I did. I immediately did a Yahoo, a big old Yahoo. I was by myself when I found out, so I did a Yahoo to myself, and then I was able to make some of my first product deliveries to the Graham Central location in Montpelier,
Oh,
which
cool.
I really, really like that spot. I really like that store, and I like the staff. I've also had our products in Winooski Organics, which is another spot that I really like and really care
Those guys are
greatly about those
fantastic.
guys. Yeah, really super folks. Let's see, ninth
I haven't
state.
got to meet the Graham Central guys yet. Maybe you could put us in touch.
Well, I will do that. When you get a chance to, you're going to really like them. The people there are really super, and their location, I really like their location, and their actual storefront dispensary is really accommodating and comfortable and a really pleasant place to visit and also to just hang out. I
And it's pretty
myself
convenient.
like
I'm sorry to cut you off, but it's pretty conveniently located. I mean, at least from where you're delivering from, that's not too bad of a drive, huh?
no, it's not, and it's right on Route 2, so they've got a ton of traffic passing by constantly. And every time that I've spent a little bit of my time there after making a delivery, for example, I'll just sit there and hang out, and it's constant people coming and going, and it's neat to be able to see how the staff uh, caters to the folks that arrive and explains and just guides them through the whole process. It's a really neat spot.
So you've watched them working.
Oh yeah, I like to sit there in their lounge and just hang out. I like to just hang out. I really like the staff there. I like the owners. So for me, it's kind of, it almost feels like sitting in my living room, a little bit of a home away from home. The only thing is, I can't sit there and smoke weed, unfortunately,
Wouldn't
like
that
I
be
can in
nice
my
if you
living
could?
room.
Well, let me ask you about that then, because this is a hot topic. Is safe consumption sites or whatever you'd like to call it, how smoking lounges, if you will, is that something you'd like to see in Vermont?
I think that's a really neat option. I think that would be a really neat option for folks to be able to have a place where they can go and feel safe and confident and comfortable enjoying their THC products. I have encountered them in only New York City, as many of the people may know that already about me, and I think it's a really neat option. For example, one of the couple of spots that I know of down in New York City, folks will come in and they can purchase their flower. Then there's a back area where they can go that is equipped with grinders and trays and papers and such, and they're able to sit there and get out of the cold, get out of the rain, wind, or sun and heat, depending on the time of the year, and partake in their cannabis consumption with like-minded folks that they may or may not know already. And it's just a really neat location for people to hang out. Maybe bond might not be quite the right word, but at least associate with folks of like-minded ways.
And I got to tell you, Devin, this is going to sound a little fucked up, but I feel like some of my best friends I've met over a joint or over a bowl.
Totally, man. Totally. It's just something that you have in common with folks that is is something that can bring you together. And I think that that's a good way to make new friends and to make acquaintances. Even if you don't end up becoming close friends, you have a good connection with people over something that a plant that I have mentioned in the past has its own social power.
Mm-hmm. I got my
So
tall
yeah,
truck cart right here too. This is lovely.
I got my tall truck cart right here
Oh
too,
yeah,
man.
I also got a quantum genetics sample of some hash rosin carts, which I'm really loving. I
I'm
like to mix them.
sure I've tried
Yeah,
some of those hash rosin carts, and they are super tasty, super super tasty.
yeah, and I do love the distillate carts. Like, don't get me wrong, I love that shit. I've been smoking them for years. But the rosin, boy, it feels like you're getting more of the essence of the plant. And like the distillate is very refined, and sometimes I know they like to mix different terpenes back in. I've had some that taste like Swedish fish and Sour Patch Kids, which I think is delicious. But the rosin, it feels like you're really getting the essence of the plant, which in my mind is what I'm looking for, and I fucking love that. um
Yeah,
are you guys looking at any rosin carts maybe in the future?
I would like to do rosin carts in the future at some point because I agree with you completely on that statement. How it does bring you the essence, the flavor, the true essence of the cannabis plant is evident in those rosin carts that I don't feel can be even can be attained through the distillate carts. I just haven't found the same flavor, effect, and overall the overall wonderfulness of those rosin carts is really something. I like my distillate carts. I love our carts. I'm proud of them, and I love the
Yeah, they're
CBD
tasty,
aspect
man.
that is included in them. And we tried not to overdo it with unnatural terpenes. We tried to run as naturally as we can with flavors, but boy, those rosin carts are really super.
Word up. Who's doing your carts, if you don't mind me asking? We might have talked about this last time, but
Something at the moment, I'm a little bit in limbo with that, and
okay.
I have to get myself a producer for that here. But
Okay.
I'm still having a hard enough time just keeping up with flower supply. So I
Mm.
am still pretty tied up with that. And I think before going to the rosin carts, I'm going to try some pre-roll type approaches as my next line of product offering.
Okay. Pre-rolls. I'm with it. Yeah, yeah. Would you mind going down the list and telling us all of the retailers that you're working with, if you can remember them all offhand?
You know
I know you
something,
said
I
a
can
couple.
remember them all because there's not a lot of them because I don't have enough production to really
Sure.
provide much cannabis from many different outlets. But the Graham Central, the Winooski Organics, Ninth State Cannabis,
Oh yeah, Matt.
Mountain Girl Cannabis, and we have had some at Lamoille County Cannabis. But I haven't had a lot at Lamoille County. I haven't really had a lot at all of these places just because I have such a small grow.
Sure. And do you feel in any way that having a small grow sort of, I don't know, makes your product in a higher demand when you do have product to sell?
It may, because as we know, scarcity helps to lead to the desire of some folks to want that. But
Sure.
I feel like for me, my scarcity isn't necessarily helping out that much because there's a lot of demand, and it kills me to not be able to at least satisfy some of the demand.
And I know when we first spoke, I believe you were mulling over the possibility of a potential expansion in the future. Which I actually I believe I commented on this the first time. I said maybe you were smart to sort of lay back and watch the market develop, because I believe that a lot of people have have jumped into the deep end maybe without necessarily having the demand for their product. And I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on maybe on that, you know, as opposed to when we spoke last year.
Well, I'll tell you that I am still content with running the size of the operation that I'm running. It's For me, it's less stress, I think, and less pressure having just myself and a small crew doing the small amount that I'm doing. I'm still going to wait and see how this all plays out. I still would like to do some expansion eventually at my property, but at the moment, I'm still pretty comfortable with what I'm able to provide and produce at the level tier one that I'm at. And I'm going to stay that way, I think, through this year of 2023, and maybe towards the fall end of the year, see where I'm at, how I feel, and then potentially make some moves.
Sure, and you still have your own other masonry business going on. I was going to say on the side, but I feel like that's probably like not a side gig.
Yeah, it's this time of the year is difficult for masonry, so I'm a little slow right now with masonry. But I look forward to getting back into building with stone and brick in the springtime when the weather breaks.
Didn't you? I feel like you showed me a picture. Maybe you were building a fireplace at your kid's school or something like that.
Yeah, I did. We did a really neat fireplace job. It actually was a total volunteer job. We finished it, I think it was in October. I started it like September of 21, finished it in October of 22,
Wow.
just because that was just how I was able to get time. And also the building needed to progress in order for me to take my next masonry steps with it as well. But yeah, we did a really neat project for the school. And my son graduated before we had a chance to finish it. So that was kind of disappointing because I was hoping that he was going to be able to spend some time in this particular building as well, but it didn't work out that way. And I was still really pleased to have done it.
And didn't you say you did that for free, Devon?
Yeah, it was 100% donation.
Wow.
Yep.
Why do you do things like that?
I guess first and foremost is they ask. They ask first, and I have a hard time saying no because I don't know. I guess I've spent a lot of my life. I've had a good life. I've done well. I've worked hard. I've liked my job. I like doing masonry work, and giving back like that to me is an important part of whom I become. I guess.
Hmm. So you, yeah, all right, cool. I was hoping you'd say,
I get great satisfaction from giving back. It's really something that you might sweat and work and crush your fingers for free for weeks, but every night on the way home from the job site or from wherever I'm happen to be donating of myself, the way home from these events, as I rethink the day and the events that happened throughout the day, how many bricks I laid, for example, or how many stones I was able to set, it just feels really energizing. It energizes my soul.
how old are you now, Devon?
52, almost 53.
52. You're still out there building
Damn.
chimneys and fireplaces and yeah.
Mixing my own mud, hauling my own bricks and blocks because it's hard to pay a labor to help you when you're not getting paid for something. So you just end up doing it all yourself. You mix your own bricks, you mix your own blocks. I mean, cement. You move your own bricks, move your own blocks, and you just go at it. When you run out of mud, you climb down the friggin' ladder and you go mix some more. Then you haul it back up there again and just get it done. Because there's nobody's gonna. I've discovered in life that for me, I like to rely on myself, and if I don't get it done myself or don't provide it for myself, then I generally don't have it or don't do it.
Do you ever get tired?
I do, especially when I'm sick.
Yeah.
Like these days, I'm not feeling that well and I get tired. But yeah, I do get tired, but usually not till around 10:30 at night, 11 o'clock at night. But then I hit the pillow and boom, I'm out like a light till like 5:30.
Yeah. So you sleep about 7 hours and then you're just building walls for 17 hours a day.
Or doing whatever I could, just trying to be productive for the next
Wow.
17 hours, trying to be as productive as possible. And
Um,
it's
I,
not
I,
always building walls. It's might maybe sitting on the computer designing a logo with somebody and going back and forth with my graphic designer and having him make changes and then like listening to his input and whatever it is, it's something trying to be productive every minute of the day.
hmm. Or doing events.
Or
I
doing
was
events.
I wanted to ask you about some of the skateboarding events because I know me and Tasha came through to one of the events you did in Essex last year, and that was a great time. And I feel like we talked about this last time, but I really love the events that you do, and I'd love to hear a little more about that. Or if you have any events coming up, I'd love some shameless plugs for some tall truck hucks if you got any. I know it's a
Well,
bad time of year for that, but
it's a difficult time of year for that, but these events have been something they've taken on a life of their own that I didn't anticipate. I really didn't know how they were going to play out, and now they've become such a popular thing that we do that I can't stop, and I don't want to stop. I want to have more of them. I wish that the winter allowed for us to have more. I wish that ski areas would be more open to allowing a cannabis company to host an event at them, but there is very few, if any, ski areas that are open to a cannabis company led event such as a tall truck huck at Sugarbush. I'd love to do one there, but they're not
hmm,
down with it. There was recently a really neat event for a company called Level One. They're a ski company, a skiing production company. They had a really super event. Was it last weekend or the weekend before at Sugarbush Parks? And we went there. I had a couple of skiers that were entered into the event, and it was just a super high energy. Some of the best skiers on the East Coast all gathered to just for it was a big cash prize at the end for the male and female categories. But just the energy, the camaraderie, the community, and the love that was just there at this event was outstanding. And we're getting a lot of that in our skateboarding events too.
yeah, and I didn't realize, Devin, that you were the guy out there with the phone recording. Like, you're fucking making hot dogs. You're like I've seen some of the videos from your events. I didn't realize that was just you with a selfie stick out there fucking taking the videos.
I've learned that that's how you have to do it. It's either that or try and hire a filmer, and filmers are not always available. So, and they don't always give me the content that I want. I'm really fussy. So, yeah, man, I've discovered that I want to be out there doing it as much as I am able to get the best fucking clips that I can so that we can make the best content that we can.
Dude, and
So,
you get some
yeah,
really nice shots, man. Like you're not a skateboard photographer, but well, I mean, I assume you are kind of at this point, but man, you like I've been watching skate videos since I was 15 or 16, and I love watching skate videos. And boy, you really get some nice angles on these tricks.
thanks. It's from being active, not just standing there and taking a video from one position. You have to be out there sweating yourself too as a filmer. Otherwise, you aren't getting good clips. You have to hustle here, you have to hustle there. You learn what people like and what parts of the feature they're going to hit so that you can see who's coming and you can position yourself correctly. It takes thought, anticipation, and activity, not just standing there with the camera and taking videos like a lot of folks do. To get the good ones, you really have to be interactive with the whole event.
Hmm. And now I'd like to ask you about some of your experiences in Colombia. I know we talked about this last time, but I just love seeing all the skate videos. My news feed on Instagram is full of skate videos from like all over the world. It's fucking crazy. A lot from Colombia, but like all over New York. Like I just love to see that personally, and I love that like everyone's smiling, having a good time. You got your own line of skate decks too. I'd love if you talked about that for a minute.
Well, it is really neat to be able to combine the different cultures from different countries that are still part of the same community, the skateboarding community. And I know that, for example, a lot of our skaters in the United States love seeing what the skaters do down in Colombia because there's a
Right.
lot of really good talent down there. And these guys throw down some gnarly spots. So the US market, I've discovered, has really likes to see um, this the South American content that I bring up here. But and the same, the South American people that follow Tall Truck really dig the American skate content, but they also dig the snow content that we have too. They
Oh,
love
cool.
seeing the different stuff that a lot of them dream of being able to potentially snowboard someday. They may never ever get the chance, but they like to see that and see it in the same kind of community because a lot of these snowboarders are also skateboarders in the off in the summer times.
Sure.
So that is a big thing that I've discovered that transcends the different cultures is they all love to express themselves in their sport, be it skateboarding or snowboarding or mountain biking or what is it. It's an expression, it's an artistic expression that a lot of these athletes find a way to express themselves. The skateboard line that I've got going on is really bitching. I really enjoy having these skateboards. They have been a big hit with the community. I really didn't know what to expect when ordering them, but they've been a big hit. And the in particular the peyote critical boards are really with a nice thick picture of the flower on there
Is
have
that the
been really
purple one?
popular. Yes, and a lot of
Yeah.
people don't even skate them. They hang them on their wall as opposed to
Yeah.
skate them because they
My buddy
look
Jimmy's
so
got one on
good.
as well. Yeah.
Has he? Right on, right on. But then I also my other design that I have at the moment, and I'm going to be having some more designs here in the spring, is from a Vermont artist, John Garrowett, who makes me some really neat designs. He helps me to design a lot of all my artwork I like to have done in Vermont by this particular fellow. So he's got a really neat design on my decks that people just love that deck design as well.
And I saw at Above the Radar they did a little tall truck piece.
Above the radar.
That was a
Oh, yes. I actually haven't seen that yet. I have yet to see that. I can't believe they haven't sent me the link to that yet. But yes, I look forward to seeing that. Those guys came up to the house and we had a really nice little talk too.
oh, Scotty and Brian.
Yes. Is that who they? Yes, yes.
Awesome. Yeah, those are my homies, man. I had Brian on and Scotty's coming on in a couple of weeks here, and they're just super talented artists.
Yeah, well, they
They
were a
did the
real
piece
joy
at
to be
Winooski
around.
Organics, I believe, too.
Oh, cool. Yep, they are. I think they were doing a lot of that for a classroom project or a school project of some sort, if I remember correctly.
Well, they also did Stoneleaf. I don't know if you've seen Stoneleaf, but I believe that was Brian. He did the whole front of their greenhouse with a nice like farm scene with some pigs and like a praying mantis. It was pretty dope.
Right on. I have not seen that. I'll have to check it out.
I'll show you after. Oh, I had something
Cool.
else there, and then I blanked for a minute. I wanted to ask you about selling seeds because seeds are now legal. You can send them all over the world. So, and I know you've got this following in Colombia, and I'm curious, like, if you like have ever thought of sending seeds down to Colombia. They grow some tall truck weed because and also that's what I was going to ask is about the legalization situation in Colombia right now because I've seen Colombia has legalized and it looks like their home grow gives you access to like 20 plants or something like that.
I, that's what I understand. Yes, is that in Colombia, if you're a resident, that you are legally able to grow 20 plants. I will say that I have brought some peyote critical seeds down there. We're waiting for the right opportunity to grow them because down there there's very little, if any, there's very little, if any, commercial indoor grown
Uh,
cannabis down there. Most everybody grows their cannabis outdoors for numerous reasons. One being space, one being the ability to pay for the electricity, to buy the lights, all that stuff. So for most people, it's all outdoor grown. And down there, I would like to try and open up a branch of tall truck cannabis. But for me, the standards that I have in what I would like to put in a pouch that reads tall truck as far as quality is going to be difficult to achieve down there. And not necessarily difficult to achieve, but difficult, I guess, to sell because the price that I would have to put on something that was grown indoors to the extent that I like to grow it would have to be priced out of most Colombians, out of most Colombians' reach, just
sure,
because there is it's a tight situation down there. It's a very difficult situation for the majority of Colombians down there.
sure, yeah, and even in America, I feel like commercial real estate is not super easy to come by.
Right, right, that too. And just down there, I think there's a lot of things that would be difficult to come by as far as materials, as far as nutrients, as far as systems for growing. And then, as I mentioned, you just have a hard time. It's hard enough to sell it at a high enough price down here to make a decent living up here in the United
Sure.
States where we have expendable, disposable income. Down there, there's no disposable income, period. 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 There's no disposable income. It's all if you have any income, it's taken by just the need to survive.
Mm, damn.
Yeah, it's a totally different lifestyle, man. It's a totally different way of life down there and way of looking at money, way of looking at your day, and way of feeding yourself and thinking about what's the most highest priority to spend my money on.
Yeah, and it's got to be food, right?
And
Water.
it's got to be food, water, transportation. But of course, there's a strong cannabis loving population down there as well that do find a way to buy their cannabis, but they're of course buying it very affordably, as cheap a quality as they can.
Have you smoked any of the cannabis down there?
Have I smoked any of the cannabis down
Yeah.
there? Oh God, when I was just down there in December, I always have cannabis waiting for me when I get off the plane, buddy. There's
How
people
is it?
meeting me there and they have joints roll for me.
How is it?
You know, it's because of there's nothing else, it's what you smoke. It's something that I probably wouldn't smoke up here if I was given the same buds that I get handed down there. I wouldn't want to smoke it up here, and I probably wouldn't. But when you're on a trip like that, and that's what you have, that's what you smoke. But also, you don't want to be rude either. You don't want to be rude either. So you make the most of it, and you compliment it, whether it's compliment worthy or not, and you enjoy it to the extent that you're able to because that's what's available and that's what the folks down there are accustomed to. They're not accustomed to having anything that tastes really good when you take a dry hit off a joint or you take a burning hit off a joint. they're just not accustomed to flavors and effects like we've got up here. So you make the most of what you have,
Hmm.
and you enjoy it, and you appreciate it.
Hell yeah, I've been to Arizona and hung out with my dad. So
So
that's
you've
what
had
it
some
was like.
experience with some of that lower grade stuff.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, it reminded me of the very first time I smoked, like when I was 12. It was like I thought my dad would have better weed because he was an international drug smuggler for a long time, but he didn't. He had shitty weed.
He still had shitty weed. Gosh darn it.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna take that up with him later.
Yes, you should say, Dad, come on. This isn't the fucking third world anymore. You can go
Yeah,
and buy some good weed.
yeah, or at least you can put me in contact with someone. Dad, come on, do me
Right.
a solid for once.
There's got to be something. There's got to be some good weed over there in Arizona, I would
Oh, I
imagine.
bet now. This was 10 years ago. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, if
hopefully
we
he's
went to
changed
Arizona
his,
now, I
his
guarantee we could get some nice herb.
and hopefully your dad is smoking nicer while he's down there now. I don't know
I
if
think
he is
he's
or if
I
he's
think
still
he's just
going for the
drinking.
cheap stuff. Well, that's unfortunate. He's got to
I think he,
get
I think he
trade one
fell
for
off
the
this.
other.
Yeah, I think he fell off the smoking train. That's all right. I'm on it. I'm evolving. I'm the evolved version. I have distillate carts and hash rosin carts.
Very good.
That,
I'm glad to hear that, bud.
yeah, well, Devin, I don't want to keep you here all day. I love the follow-ups. I usually try to keep them to half an hour here. I want to ask you if there's anything we missed here that you would like to speak on, or if there's anything maybe coming up in the works, any events you got coming that we should know about.
Well, I can't wait for May because May we're going to start our skateboarding season, event season again, and our first event will be down in LES skate park in Manhattan, which we've got a really solid following down there of skaters and athletes that I got to say I never knew New York City really until last year. I went down I think for 6 different events down there and got to meet some really great people,
Great
and I
skateboarding
got to
city.
say great skateboarding city and one of the iconic skate parks of the world there. LES is a place now that when I pull in there, I feel like I'm walking into my living room again or feel like I'm coming back home because it's just, there's literally people smoking weed everywhere. It's a ton of really good, talented people, but then there's a lot of people who are beginners. It's open to everybody, but the cannabis vibe down there at this skate park and in the whole city is like nothing I've ever seen. Even more so than Colombia. In Colombia, people smoke weed everywhere. In New York City, people smoke weed everywhere. It's fucking awesome. Everywhere. Cops in front of the cops, around the cops, walking by the cops, walking down the street, anywhere. People smoke weed. Women, men, there's no, I haven't found any kind of difference between sexes smoking down there. The women, young women, older women, they're everybody down there
And
is
I assume in New
not
York, you've got
everybody,
a
but
much more diverse crowd of smokers as well. Racially
uh,
diverse specifically.
definitely a many different cultures down there. But I think down there being such a tremendous melting pot that
Yeah.
cannabis has just really entered into this melting pot in a really positive way, and people have really embraced it. And I think they've embraced it strongly and steered a little bit away from the alcohol because I think the stigmatisms have been lifted strongly down there in New York City, more so in many other places that I've been. But New York City, it's really been opened up to cannabis
You
consumption.
know,
It's freaking wicked cool,
can I
really,
tell you,
really
Devin?
cool.
I'm a drinker. You know that. I like to drink a little bit, but in the last year, I've had access to some of the highest quality cannabis products in Vermont. People have been throwing samples at me and tinctures and edibles and flour and everything, concentrates, the whole nine. And I've been drinking so much less. And it's just like, I don't know if that's directly, I don't want to say it's because I've had access to all these cannabis products, but I certainly in my brain, I'm like, okay, is it because I've had access to all these cannabis products? Like, I was drinking a fifth of vodka a day when I was working at Burke Mountain 6 years ago. And now it's like, okay, I have like one or two of these a day. And boy, we've come a long way. I would really like to stop drinking completely, honestly. If we're being honest here, it's not doing anything for me. at this point. It feels more like maintenance. But I do feel like personally that the access to all these cannabis products has sort of helped me to drink less.
Well, if that is whatever the reason is that you're drinking less, it's a positive, whatever the reason is. And it very likely to me could be that you have access to something that helps you to chill out a little more than doesn't make you feel the need to drink. And if that's whatever it is, it's a good thing because I just feel that cannabis is a much better substitute to alcohol in a lot of ways.
And I've always felt that. Like I knew from the beginning, I'm like, this is a way superior product. Like that seemed apparent from the very beginning.
And I think that the various forms of THC intakes, such as the cart, such as the edibles, help to make it that much more of an easier step away from alcohol because you don't have to have a smelly bowl or a smelly joint. Not that they smell bad, but you don't have to have that. That's not the only way that you can ingest and get your dosage. You can get your dosage through edibles, you can get your dosage through a tincture or through the carts. And I think that that has been probably very helpful for a lot of folks to maybe step away from the alcohol and make it a little bit easier for them to step away from the alcohol because alcohol you can hide that a little bit. You can put it in your water bottle and no one knows maybe that you have a spiked soda there or something like that. But when you had to smoke a bowl or had to smoke a joint, you might have left with your fingers smelling like weed or like smoke or your clothing smelling like that. But with these carts and different methods, I think that that's going to be very helpful for folks to switch over.
And I see some people doing the seltzers now, and I'm not crazy about the THC drinks. I do like them, but it kind of makes me feel like I could drink something. It gives me the feeling of drinking without drinking alcohol.
Yes.
Some of the
Well, I
flavors,
hadn't
some of
actually
the flavors
considered
have
that.
not been. Sorry to interrupt you. Some of the flavors have not been amazing, but I feel like it kind of tricks me into thinking, "Hey, we're drinking here, but I'm not drinking alcohol."
That's a great point. That's a really great point. And that's part of, I think that's part of it is tricking your mind into feeling like it's receiving the same thing that it has in the past that you've been accustomed to, that your mind has been trained to do. So if that's a way that works for you and for others, then fuck yeah, let's have it. Let's have more of it. Let's make it more readily available.
Oh
Let's
yeah.
buy it in Marty's store. Let's have it. Let's have these next to the beer at Marty's store.
Have you talked to Marty's?
No, I haven't. Nope, I have not. But it just popped into my head that because it's my local store, that
Yeah,
would
yeah,
be
and they got a lot of traffic through there. A lot
a
of
lot of
traffic.
traffic, and they got a huge, huge array of beers, a monstrous array of beers and
Sometimes
wines
I
there.
stop there
So
to get beers. Yeah.
yeah, why not have some THC or CBD seltzers available there in the same coolers or next to the same coolers as the beer? What the heck? I'm assuming it's inevitable that that will eventually happen, but let's have
I
it.
hope, I hope you're right.
Because I would imagine, I don't really know because I don't drink seltzers or beers, but gosh, I would think that the seltzers would not give you as much of a beer belly either.
Yeah, well, they're very low calorie. There's really
Yeah,
almost no calories in them. I think maybe 5.
so the weight gain aspect of having that same sensation of having something that's going to affect your mind that you can drink, the weight gain and maybe negative health effects would be diminished in those. And so I don't know, who knows, maybe it could just be better for the population as a whole if those things were more readily available, just as alcohol and beer are.
That's a great point, Devon.
I haven't thought about it till just this moment, Caleb, so I
Hey,
don't really know. I'm
it's like
just speaking out loud.
it's like when last time we talked and you said all that shit about packaging. I had never thought about it in that light until you mentioned that. So same deal.
You never know. Times are changing, and it's a really wonderful change. And dude, sometime when you go down to New York City, you'll have to come down in May when we have an event, or hopefully many folks from Vermont come down when we have our event in May and see how cool the atmosphere is for smoking weed in the city. It's friggin'
Take me
cool
with
as
you.
heck. Yes, well, I will be renting an Airbnb. We'll probably have, my guess will probably have around 14 people staying in an Airbnb. Let's make it 15.
I'll go with you. I would love to.
Sounds good. Yes, you will
All
come
right.
with me then. We'll
This
plan
seems
on it
like a.
now.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we'll plan on it now because we're going to be doing it in the middle, second to third week of May. I'll be renting an Airbnb down there, and I know that at least 14 Vermonters are coming down. Hopefully now with you 15, and hopefully many more because it's a really neat. That's another neat connection that we've been making with the cultures, the Vermont athlete culture and the New York City athlete culture. These guys come down from Vermont, and the New Yorkers and them, we all hit it off really well, even though we've got such different backgrounds. We're country boys up here. These guys are really urban folks down there. I mean, their speech, their slang, everything is way different than what we got up here. But you know what? We all love skateboarding and we all love cannabis, and that's a binding thing that transcends our different backgrounds. It's really friggin' neat, man. It's really neat, and the bonding that we have with our New York friends down there, coming from the country boys up here, it's really really neat. And it's not something that I had expected at the start, but it's really really cool and really strong. We've got a really neat connection with those New Yorkers down there.
Awesome. I'm going. Put me on the list. I'll figure it out.
Awesome. Sounds good. We're actually probably going to be doing actually not probably February. I think it's like the 26th or something like that. February 18th, somewhere down there. There's a small cannabis event down there that we are going to be participating in also.
Okay. One of these times, I'm going to go with you. It seems
That's
like
kind of a neat. It's kind of a neat thing, dude. These cannabis events that we've gone to, I've been down to two, I think, that were just strictly cannabis, not necessarily skateboarding and not necessarily tall truck, but we're part of OMG events, and they're the ones that host it. And no shit, dude, it's crazy. You go down there, and it's taking place in a hall or a decent sized space, and there's cannabis cultivators and also cannabis sellers from all over New York, Vermont, Maine. Now, at these events, what's taking place is not necessarily legal, but there's a lot of folks that are selling weed down there, and selling weed maybe not unlike prior to the legalization was up here, but in a more bold way down there because of just, I think the population is so large that they push the envelope a little bit more, and the police overlook more things down there than they would up here if we had an event like that. But there'll be tables and tables of people selling THC infused drinks, selling bud from wherever
well,
the hell they get. I'm pretty
New York
sure.
City has always sort of been like that. They're always the one pushing the envelope in terms of sort of American culture in general, I believe.
Yeah, you're right. And this is another example of it down there. And these events are really neat. Um, there's a lot of, I think, commercial cannabis that's sold down there that's been imported from California or Colorado or wherever it might be coming from out west, and
Sure.
sold in these big turkey bags, and they open them up on all the tables, and people pass by and may or may not purchase. But then there's also some of our local growers, Vermont, Maine, New York, that are trying to create a brand for themselves and open up a little bit of the market down there that's so enormous.
Yeah, and sort of in anticipation for federal legalization, I would imagine.
Yeah, I would imagine that's right too. And that's something that I'm looking forward to. I can't wait till it's federally legal. I
But
can't wait till I get to compete against these big entities that come into Vermont and try and squish all us small guys. I'm ready to
you know,
fucking compete against them.
you know that is the one counter argument here. I think that I'm really on board with is like, oh, as soon as it's federally legal, people can bring their cheap weed here to Vermont and flood the market. It's like, yeah, but as soon as it's federally legal, people in Vermont that grow good weed can now bring their weed to other states.
Yes, yes, yes. I'm totally on board with that point of view, dude. I think that that's a very valid point of view.
Hmm. Do you have any
It
other
is.
thought? Would you care to expand on that?
Well, I think it's going to be a challenge to have to compete locally with some of these bigger brands, but I think that the Vermont market, the Vermont community is going to be more of a stay local kind of community and purchase local. But I also feel like the Vermont market is so small in general, that for a good brand that grows good quality cannabis that has the energy to take on some bigger markets, we don't have that option until it's federally legal, and so therefore our potential for growth, I think, is reasonably limited, being limited to the state of Vermont. That having that, being able to cross state lines, being able to bring our market, our brand, our talents and our energy to other markets is going to be something that I'm looking forward to, and I'm assuming that there are other Vermont cultivators that are looking forward to and anxious for those opportunities as well.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's something I always like to look at both sides of every issue. Like, oh, federal legalization will allow all these people to come here and sell their weed cheap. Like, yeah, it'll also allow you guys to go out and sell your weed for whatever price you can get for it. And hopefully, like, if you're growing a quality product and you've got that brand name recognition, which I feel like you have above a lot of people in Vermont, just on the account of the amount of marketing that you've done, very cleverly, I might add. Um, but it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out when federal legalization does hit, because I feel like the brands that are well established that have a quality product will be able to then go to New Hampshire or go to Maine or go to Massachusetts or go to New York and still make money off that product. And that was another thing that at the beginning I had not considered. I said, "Oh, federal legalization is going to happen, and all these guys are going to come and flood Vermont with cheap weed." And it took me a minute to think, like, "Hey, well, now all the Vermont growers can also go to other places and have those outlets as well." So that's an argument I've been having with myself in my brain for quite a while now, and I think it's a super interesting sort of mental exercise to consider the possibilities of what might happen.
Yeah, and play it out in your mind how it may evolve, how it may or may not evolve. And there's many different ways that it may or may not evolve that probably you and I have not anticipated or thought about,
Sure.
even though we've maybe thought about a myriad of different things. But yes, so for me, I feel similarly that it provides more opportunity for the ambitious entrepreneur to 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 advance his brand in a way that is kind of limited here, and we're not able to here in Vermont with the smaller market that we have.
Mhm.
I think it's all about the entrepreneurial spirit and energy level and desire to promote and maybe grow. A lot of people are probably content to just be a backyard grower, and who knows, I may end up being the same way over the next year or so. I may realize that I'm content being a small basement grower, but I have a feeling that I'm not going to be content until I at least push the limits and either succeed or fail.
You seem like that kind of guy, Devon.
And you know something, if it succeed, it's awesome. And if it's fail, then it's then I won't be regretting the fact that I never tried.
Right, and you still have your masonry business to fall back on.
Exactly. And I still love doing masonry, and I have loved doing it for 35 years, and I still love doing it. So yeah, exactly.
And it must be nice to sort of have that fallback plan so that you can maybe sort of aggressively push this if you wanted to, and not worry about necessarily if you succeed or fail, because you still have like a reasonable business plan behind you if your cannabis company doesn't do well.
Right. That is, for me, I'm fortunate in that regard because I do have a solid trade that I can fall back on, that I've had for years and that I'm well known for as well. So that's, for me, it's good to have a solid
Mhm.
trade skill that and I can use it anywhere in the world. I can use it in California. I've traveled to California to
Yeah,
work
right.
in the winter when I haven't had work here. I can use it in Europe because there's all kinds of masonry work over there. So I could do it in Colombia too, but I'd get paid fucking literally probably $2 an hour down there. Literally. Minimum wage down there is amazing. Another one of the things about Colombia and probably many other places is when you see a homeless person down there, of which there are plenty, it's difficult. These homeless people literally have no services to fall back on. There's no food shelf. There's no cots. There's no entities that are there trying to help strictly the homeless people. Whereas up here, if you're homeless, you've got a lot more options. It might seem like they're limited, but you have a ton more options than you have in a place like Colombia.
Wow. It
Yeah,
must be
you're not
hard.
going to go find a free. You're not going to find a free meal in Colombia if you're homeless. You have to jump in a dive. You have to jump in a dumpster, or you have to wait at the back of a restaurant for them to throw the scraps out at the end of the
Or
night.
or
You
take a
know,
job with a cartel or something.
or take a job with the cartel or something. Yes, there's really nothing to fall back on. Whereas in this country, I mean, especially particularly during COVID, it seems like a lot of homeless folks got put up in hotels and motels. Gosh, in Colombia, that's you never ever even consider anything like that happening. So just in other countries, it's quite a bit different.
Hmm. Damn. Well,
And
well,
until you go down there and investigate it, until you have a chance to go down there and actually really see it, it's hard to understand. It's totally hard to understand. It's hard enough for me to understand homelessness in this country, but seeing it firsthand in Los Angeles and in San Diego counties, and then seeing it down there, it's a totally different level of homelessness and helplessness.
yeah, like not a lot of ways to lift yourself out of that.
No, when you have an education down there and you work hard, you come from a good family that has given you the best start on life that you can, which is a lot different than the best start in life up here, you still are lucky to get out of the lower class. I don't even know if there's much of a middle class down there lifestyle. Just because there's no opportunities, dude. There's no opportunities. There's no industry. There's no business. There's not very few exports apart from, as we had mentioned, the cartels. There's very few exports
Yeah,
from a country
cocaine is a big export.
like that.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Hmm.
So when you have a country that doesn't have a lot of exports and doesn't have a lot of industry, there's really little ways to advance your lifestyle. Whereas we can here, you can come from a poor family here, and if you're smart and industrious and ambitious, you can create a different life for your for yourself and for your future. Down there, there's virtually none of that opportunity.
Hmm. Well, I hate to end on a
Yeah.
depressing note, Devon, but I'm out of
Well,
questions
then
for you.
let's change it. Well, then let's change it. Let's change
Look,
it to
I
a
want
good
to
note.
before we get out of here. Yeah, let's leave on a good note. Before we get out of here, I want to say thank you again for driving down to the library to do an interview with me. I fucking appreciate you, man. And I want to leave this on some kind of a positive note. So if there's anything we missed or any shameless plugs you want to do or shout outs or places we might find your products coming up here, I always leave the last word for my guests. And this is all you right now. Devon Deyhle, Tall Truck. Thank you so much again for being here.
Caleb, thanks very much for having me. I'm thrilled that I am able to be part of your interview series. It's been really enlightening for a lot of us to see what a lot of these folks have to say that we only ever see like their Instagram posts or hear about them through the grapevine, but to actually be able to see the personality that you expose live like this in these interviews is really cool and opening and enlightening for us. One thing I want to say is that on a lighter note is, I guess, these events that we're having. I'm hoping to be able to have something at a ski mountain this year. I don't know how, if we're going to even get any snow to really be able to have a much of an event, but I'm hoping to maybe do something guerrilla style at one of these ski mountains. That's sometimes how things have to get done in order for us to be able to have the fun that we do. We just kind of sometimes just show up and do what we do and hope for the best and then head out. So I would say let's keep attention to what we have going on, what we're posting on Instagram, because I'm hoping to do something fun at a ski mountain this coming winter. Even if we don't get much snow, hopefully there's some parks that have made some nice features and have blown some snow. But keep your eyes out and ears out. We're going to try and do something at a ski mountain this year that's going to be fun.
Fantastic. Devon Deyhle, Tall Truck. Thank you for being here, sir. It's been a pleasure.
Caleb Teskey, Fine Print Journalism. It's been a pleasure as well. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Devon. Yeah, but